Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let's get started. Why did you quit your job right away? Oh, I got a good one. I was working in a call center in the 1990s as a tech support agent for a very large dial-up ISP. Being the 1990s, most regular people had no idea how anything on the internet worked. They barely knew how their computers worked. And if you're calling for help to get Windows 95 on the internet, you're probably already in way too far over your head. But that was the job, helping dozens of random people get online every day. It was a soul-crushing job as this particular call center was, and still is, very large with tens of thousands of agents. You were treated like an animal. No bathroom breaks, no food at your desk, all of your calls monitored by some a-hole floor supervisor wearing a clip-on tie. One morning, after many other exhausting calls, a new one comes in from Florida. An old lady, let's call her Gertrude. Gertrude begins to give me attitude immediately, yelling at me, calling me names, calling me a bee like all the other bees that won't help her. I managed to calm her down, take her side, feel her pain, and promise I would not get off the phone until she was happy. Hooray! So I'm laying there with my head down on my desk, eyes closed, visualizing what she was seeing in my mind while she configured Windows dial-up networking. Remember, I've done this maybe 1,000 times this month already. I can hear her clicking her mouse as she fumbles to follow my slow and clear instructions. Click on the tab that says modems. Now click on configure network devices, etc., etc. She's doing okay, then I heard her start cussing under her breath and, like a stupid person, I asked her what was wrong. I know you can see me. What? I asked, not sure if I heard her correctly. I know that you can GD see me like all the other effing bees I talked to already. Wow, okay. I start laughing because I'm tired and bored and this lady is a friggin' nut. I asked why she thinks this, and she yells at me about how obviously I can see her if I know what it says on her screen. How else could I know what she was seeing? She was 100% convinced every phone support person she has ever talked to was able to see her through her phone or computer monitor because she didn't know that other people could imagine visual things in their heads. Then I heard something else, way in the background. Clink, clink, clink. I know this sound well. It's the sound of my grandma or similarly drunk old lady nursing a cocktail before lunch. Ma'am, may I ask you something? Are you maybe a little morning drunk and getting frustrated at sober people just trying to help you? What? How could you know that? You GDFers are watching me all the time. How does it work? I said that I couldn't tell her, but I did know that wasn't orange juice in her glass, and she was having a second or third breakfast screwdriver. Apparently I was right, a lucky guess based on the time of day, location she was calling from, and her general attitude, and she really cranked up the crazy to 11. I demand to know who is behind this. I want to talk to your ringleader right now. I tell her, oh, well, I'll see what I can do, but even I've never been able to talk to him. May I place you on hold while I transfer the call? You're GD right, I'll hold. I will hold as long as I have to. Then it hit me. I would leave her on hold forever. I stood up from my desk, grabbed my bag, ripped the headset off my head, and walked across the call center floor. The busybody wannabe shift supervisors tried to block me, saying I hadn't asked to use the bathroom and to get back to my seat. And then it hit me again. Why was I working at such a terrible company at all? I told the greasy-haired clip-on tie-wearing clipboard-carrying wannabe business monkey I was leaving early to go home and smoke a huge bowl and watch cartoons until I pass out. But you will be walking away from this job because we will fire you for insubordination. Do what you gotta do, man. If you want to smoke bowls and watch cartoons, go ahead and get my number from HR. Otherwise, F you and Gertrude. Who is Gertrude? Was the last thing I heard as I left the building. I'd like to think she is still on hold, waiting to talk to the ringleader. Worked for a smallish consulting company, 10 people. Was in charge of running the whole show, admin, tech team, etc. Dealt with everything from owner handing off a poorly planned multi-million-dollar data center consolidation project an hour before he left for a 2-week vacation and had the balls to demand that I not call him while he's out. Talking the owner off a cliff as he was having a meltdown while driving to the office, threatening to come in and fire every single person that moment. Thank God I got him to pull over. From the sound of it, he was probably going 80 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour downtown neighborhood area. Owner botched another project he planned where he told our colo provider to announce a very large customer's IP space via BGP to the internet prior to them even having power in their racks at this new-to-them data center. To make matters worse, he was the only POC on the account that could make IP/routing changes with the colo's NOC. Customer took me aside and was like, "Hey man, now you know what it's like to work with owner's name. Welcome to the S show. Now you understand why we want to fire him." Owner blamed me that time for not just handling it, and that he needs someone who can get things done. I guess he was suggesting I could have impersonated him or something? This guy was legitimately a psychopath, was obsessed with being rich, had a gold digger wife who came from money, and would always come into the office to explain to the employees what hard work and success is all about, despite never having a real job herself. Rarely had repeat customers, kept almost losing customers we did have despite my efforts to smooth things over. I think I lasted as long as I did because I quit caring very early on, could take a ton of punches, it was almost comically outrageous sometimes, and was surprisingly paid quite well. I had a ton of money saved from a sale of a house, so I could say F you at any time. I always knew it would be a short-lived job. One day, I finally did snap. He blew up on me in one of my texts because a drive failed in an old legacy SAN that we had, resulting in some downtime until backups were spun up. An SAN that, as it turns out, he blew off renewing the warranty on. After my text showed this proof in a much cooler than he should have manner, I walked out in a rage. The owner ran out and begged me to stay on and blocked me from getting into my car. We formulated a transition plan shortly after. Only reason I was kind enough to work out a transition plan was so my team didn't get effed. They didn't have the same FU luxury. My techs also all found new jobs within 6 months. 1 year at a company. 1 year of enduring complete and total BS that was racist, sexist, inept, and unappreciative. I had to pass images of malnourished miners in developing nations pampered by the mining industry. Arrived at work on day 365 to find yet another demeaning sexist email from my boss's boss. I strolled toward my boss's workspace. Told him, I could give you my 2 weeks notice, but you won't find someone who can do what I do, and California is a right-to-work state. I quit. He looked like I kicked his puppy. This was a man who had no qualms about grabbing me aside to go over the technical aspects of every meeting. I had to wait 2 hours in silence for them to process my paperwork before I could be let out of the gated, highly secure facility. Within the month, my group, IT, experienced a mass exodus of talented individuals. When was your F this HOA moment? Purchased a home bordering a gated community. A 6-foot-tall chain-link fence with a gate surrounded the backyard. The gently rolling desert chaparral lies on the other side of the fence on the federal BLM land. The BLM was all the vacant land nobody wanted in the U.S. western states. The developer erected this chain-link fence 40 years ago, and it borders the entire community. After living there for about a year, we received a notice informing us that the shrub growth behind our fence is excessive and that we must keep a 20-foot buffer between our fence and the U.S. government property. Okay, alright. Since it gets really dry in the summer and there's always a risk of fire, I'm not all that bothered. I grab a few friends, get wasted, and we have a great time using machetes and weed whackers to take down all this crap. I could have complained that the facility staff, who we pay for with our POA fees, ought to be handling this, but what the heck. You choose your battles sometimes. It wasn't a big deal to keep it under control once a year in the spring after we had reached scorched earth on my section. Completed this task 3 years ago. Next, we receive a notification from the POA stating that our gate in the chain link was not approved. The gate was erected by the developer 40 years prior to the POA's establishment, the exact same kind of gate that all of the other lots in my community have. They demanded that we take down every gate we had. They concluded that there could be no gates at all on the border fence. However, we were still expected to keep the 20-foot buffer around our property. I had no interest in climbing over the fence because it was constructed with a barbed wire topper. The 600 acres of BLM land are devoid of any roads. To get to a place where I could park and hike 2 miles to reach my fence, it would take me 8 miles to drive around this entire section from my driveway. I said F it and left the gate, didn't pay the fine, and the neighbors still have it all tied up in lawsuits. I moved about 6 months later. In my front yard, AT&T has an underground hub box or junction box of some kind. They have now excavated my yard 4 times due to ongoing fiber line errors. My sprinkler was broken once, and a new sprinkler head was installed in its place. I therefore have a stream that shoots out 35 feet, oscillates, and hits my house instead of a 180-degree mist that travels 15 feet. AT&T insists that the sprinkler head was functioning and would not replace it. They destroy every blade of grass in my yard when they dig these enormous holes, and the area 8 to 12 feet by 4 to 5 feet where the pile is dumped next to the enormous hole is also destroyed. After everything's said and done, I typically have a 20 by 10 foot dead area / clay patch. I live in North Carolina, and when they eventually fill the hole back in, leaving clay on top, it's hard to grow anything once they get through the tiny top layer of topsoil I had down. When AT&T first started digging, my HOA asked if I had a permit to dig, to which I replied, "I'm not digging, that's AT&T." The man continued, "Well, since you're using their services and they are the source of this eyesore, you will begin to receive fines in 3 days if this isn't cleaned up." I replied, "I don't even have AT&T. This is just a junction servicing the rest of the street. I utilize Spectrum." He appeared to nod in understanding at that point, so I assumed the conversation was over. After a week, AT&T finally wraps up, thankfully without incurring any HOA fees. However, AT&T performs a dreadful job of repairing the large clay patch in my front yard. 2 weeks have passed, and the seed they dropped is not sprouting, and I receive a fine in the mail for having a messy front yard. The HOA board waived the fine if I fixed it over the weekend, according to our conversation. I fixed it up nicely and went and bought a bunch of topsoil, seed, hay, and lime. Nothing to fine. After 6 months, AT&T has returned. They unearth it once more, shoddily reassemble it, and I return with a clay patch. I get in touch with AT&T to submit a claim to have it fixed. There was a lot of rain this time of year, so all their seed took hold, but it turned out to be a horrible crabgrass. Even though there was crabgrass and weeds, the Sedgwick claims adjuster said, "Sorry, it's green, nothing we can do," when he arrived. My homeowners association notifies me 2 days later that I must remove the weeds from my front yard or risk paying a fine. I had to ruin everything again as a result, purchase extra hay, lime, seed, and topsoil. When AT&T dug up my yard about 6 months ago, they found the same thing, crabgrass that only lived for a single season and now weeds and mostly dead clay. At the end of our development, AT&T has a massive 25 by 15 foot hole dug and is working on the fiber again, but my HOA is up my A again about fixing it. I've informed my HOA that I won't be fixing anything else until AT&T completes their work and certifies that the issue with the equipment in my front yard has been resolved. At this point, I'm thinking of suing AT&T, and I'll reciprocate the courtesy by giving my HOA the same treatment. Update: I had to spend a lot of nerve cells to win this case, but in the end, I was able to get AT&T to reimburse me for all the damages I had to pay to repair my yard. In addition, the HOA remained silent the entire time I was clearing my lot under threat of a lawsuit. But anyway, to H with the HOA and to H with AT&T. A violation was filed against one of the units by our HOA board because the unit had constructed a deck in the common area. Regarding a landscaping project, that unit filed a lawsuit against the HOA, accusing the HOA of engaging in self-dealing and embezzling funds related to the project. Despite the fact that various units banded together and angry emails were exchanged between them, I made an effort to avoid getting involved because I do not want to have any HOA drama in my life. 3 of the board members have resigned. Due to the fact that none of us had taken a side during the disagreement, that made us seem like good choices, especially considering the size of our community. I, along with 2 other people, became the new board representatives. A lot of things, such as landscaping, needed to be figured out by the new board, and they also needed to figure out how to satisfy the requirements of the lawsuit. Things were going well, but then one of them moved out, and we had to find someone else to take her place. The new HOA president was irritated by the new person, and as a result, the president ultimately decided to step down from his position. The board president position is now mine. All I want is to get off of this crazy ride. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for your support.